clear, the use of signal message encryption applications is permissible and was, in this case, used permissibly, at least to my understanding, and in a lawful manner.
The seriousness of this is so clear. That's why I want to have an audit, and both of you
This is so clear.
indicating that you would be open to that, and I appreciate it. Director Patel, you weren't in this particular group chat, but have you participated in any chats on unclassified phones with other administration officials relating to national security? And if so, on what other topics?
Thank you for your question, Senator, and not that I can recall.
Okay. Question I have for you, Director Gabbard, involves this question of Elon Musk wasn't going to see the military's China war plans because he said he, quote, has business in China and he would be susceptible perhaps to that. That was his comment. So as DNI, you're responsible for security clearance policies across the government. Under your watch, how are you going to go about carrying out this obligation? Because I think it obviously is a very significant one in terms of American national security.
Thank you, Senator. As you know, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence provides oversight over these different 18 intelligence elements. Leaders within those elements are empowered with that responsibility to uphold the trust that the American people have placed in them. In this example that you cited, both Secretary Hegseth as well as President Trump completely denied the assertion that Elon Musk was going to receive any kind of classified war plan brief pertaining to China or any other country.
So on the question of whether the president has the prerogative to get clearances is really the area that I want to touch on, because you're formally responsible for security clearance policies, and that's why I'm asking about it. So can a president decide who gets the clearance?
Yes.
So what about your role? You're formally responsible for security clearance policies.
That is also true.
So how do we resolve it? President just gets his way.
The elected president and commander-in-chief has the authority to provide a security clearance to those who he deems necessary.
Mr. Chairman, and to the ranking member, I think we have to have a further discussion on this and figure out what the ground rules, are. I think it's clear.
Does he not know how security clearances work?
Director says. I just think we need more clarity, because I think you have the formal responsibility for security clearances, and now we've heard that this somehow is going to be the president's.
I don't think that's a contradiction. I'm pretty sure the president can declassify or classify or grant security clearance, I think, to anybody that he wants. I don't think that this is a power that is like expressly delegated in a unique way. The only exception to this, I believe, is in matters of, I believe, nuclear energy or nuclear weapons. I think that there is a special process or procedure that the president has to go through with the Department of Energy to get clarification there, or to get not clarification, to get something like declassified. But otherwise, I think the president can declassify or grant security clearance to whoever wants, I believe.
Project, and I think we ought to.
I think he means what happens if they disagree? Then the president just does it. What do you mean? She serves at the pleasure of the president.
Have further discussions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Langford.
The thing is, the problem is that, like, what I'm talking about is kind of like, it's a combination of like norms and law. Like, the president can do it, but we're in an area where nobody would really think about stuff like this because nobody's really abused it as crazily as Trump has, right? Like, if we were at a place where Biden was insisting that Hunter should have a security clearance and his DNI head was like, well, actually, I don't think it's a good idea, then that might be similar, but like, we just haven't seen a thing like this before with this level of outward and open corruption. So it's hard to say, like, well, what should happen,
Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you to all of you, your service to the country. It matters. There are a lot of citizens of our country right now that have much greater security in their life because of the work that you do and the people that are working around you do. So I just want to say I appreciate that. For the folks in Oklahoma, they would definitely want me to be able to say thank you for your service.
Blazing.
Let me ask a couple of questions on this. Director Gabbard, let me start with you on this. Iran has been listed as one of the top sponsors of terrorism for a very long time. They are the primary armors of Hezbollah, of Hamas, of the Houthis. They're arming the Russians to be able to kill Ukrainians. they continue to be able to destabilize the region. And just in the recent days, when many nations in the Gulf region have talked about how to provide great.
Why does the U.S. survive on norms and gentlemen's agreements like this? Because at the end of the day, it's all you have. If you've got people who are willing to break norms, they're probably people who are willing to break laws. Like Scalia said in that one speech, like there have been constitutions that have granted far more rights than the U.S. Constitution does. Like I think Soviet Russia is an example he gives, where they give so many more rights in their particular constitutions. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the people who are in power don't care. Whether you have norms or laws, it's irrelevant.
Greater stability. Iranian leadership stepped out and made very clear statements. They want a one-state solution for Israel and its addressing all Jews. So this continues to be an issue not just for the region, but for Americans in particular. So my question is on this is the sanctions and the effect of sanctions, what we know about the Iranian response. Under the Biden administration, those sanctions will turn down, where quite frankly, Iran has been able to sell $90 billion in oil on the global market to be able to rearm itself and all the others around the region.
What's the point of hearing things, of these hearings? Is it allows the American people to hear what's going on, basically. So for social media clips or for the press to report on or for whatever else, it just gets things on the record publicly.
Sanctions are now going back on to Iran again. What do we know about the effect of those sanctions?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. These sanctions have just begun to be reinstated, so the full effects have not yet borne fruit. But the message that the president has sent with his maximum pressure campaign is certainly heard.
Out them from there. So how are you trying to get on top?
You hit on it, criminal. So we are focused across our interagency sharing networks that we have stood up, evidence related, further refer that. And
okay, from this and standards for what are
systems, we're not talking about the dark net.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Heinrich. Thank you, Chairman. Director Ratcliffe, I want to start with you. Who determined that the content of this discussion on Signal was not classified?
Senator, I guess I'm not.
Well, for example,
I can speak to my personal knowledge. There was no classified
agent mentioned as part of this story. Normally, that would be classified information. So I guess what I'm asking is, did you just determine it was not classified, or was there any declassification after the fact?
So to be clear, so everyone understands the process, as we talked about, Signal is a permissible use.
I understand
has been used
that.
at the CIA, has been approved by the White House for senior officials.
Not for
And
secret.
appropriate for many conversations.
And recommended by CISA for high-level officials who would be targeted by foreign adversaries to use end-to-end encrypted apps whenever possible, like Signal. In this case, what the National Security Advisor did was to request through a Signal message that there be coordination. So you mentioned the name of a CIA active officer, correct? So
I didn't mention the name.
You didn't mention the name.
Existence of that.
And in the article, the implication was that somehow that was improper. That was not the case. So a CIA officer was not operating undercover. So the request for coordination was for a staff member to coordinate on the high side. So I communicated the name of a CIA officer not operating undercover, completely appropriate, who does openly and routinely coordinate with the White House as a member of my staff. So the intimation there that there was something inappropriate was clearly incorrect.
Did it occur to you that given the sensitive nature of this discussion, that it could just move to the high side?
So that was clearly, Senator, I think the intent was that this was initially set up by the National Security Advisor with the instruction that send a point of contact, and then you will be provided with information further on the high side for high side communication. So I think clearly it reflects that the National Security Advisor intended this to be, as it should have been, a mechanism for coordinating between senior level officials, but not a substitute for using high side or classified communications for anything that would be classified. And I think that is exactly what did happen.
So I'm curious, did this conversation at some point include information on weapons packages, targets, or timing?
Not that I'm aware of.
Director Gabbard, same question.
Same answer, and defer to the Department of Defense on that question.
Well, those are
Where is Pete at? Why is he not here? Was he requested to be here?
two different answers, but you're saying that was not part of the conversation.
my knowledge.
The precise operational issues were not part of this conversation.
Correct.
Okay. I want to ask you, Director Gabbard, something on a very different track here, which is I very much agree with the conclusion of the ATA that foreign illicit drug actors are a major threat in the United States, and many of you have spoken to this today. Is the IC wrong in its omission of Canada as a source of illicit fentanyl in the ATA? I was surprised, given some of the rhetoric, that there is no mention of Canada in the ATA.
Senator, the focus in my opening and the ATA was really to focus on the most extreme threats in that area. And our assessment is that the most extreme threat related to fentanyl continues to come from and through Mexico.
So the president has stated that the fentanyl coming through Canada is massive, and actually said it was an unusual and extraordinary threat. And that was the language that was used to justify putting tariffs on Canada. I'm just trying to reconcile those two issues. Is it an unusual and extraordinary threat, or is it a minor threat that doesn't even merit
Terrifying. And the national security
in
emergency.
the annual threat assessment?
Yeah.
Senator, I don't have the numbers related to Canada in front of me at this time. I'd like to get back to you on the specifics of that answer.
It's less than 1% of the fentanyl that we are able to interdict. But if you have different information, I would very much welcome that.
Senator Budd.
But
Thank you all for being here. And Director Gabbard, prior to your role here, we had a big storm in western North Carolina, and you were among those first from outside our state to show up. So thank you for your work there. Thank you for your ongoing work there and that of your family as well. It was good to see them when out in western North Carolina last week, so thank you. Director Hawk, so what do we need to do in regards to Volt Typhoon? There's a lot of pre-positioning that went on there. So where are we with that? And what do we need to do in regards to our power companies, whether it's generation or distribution, Duke Energy in my home state, or even the rural electric co-ops? What do we need? What have we learned? And what can I tell them?
Senator, 99% of the critical infrastructure in the United States is
Unlawful.
Have proven to strengthen the protections of Americans' Fourth Amendment rights.
FISA and 702, I just want to clearly delineate between FISA Title 1.3 and 702 collection. We need to both ardently defend its use, but also ardently support reforms that allow the American public to entrust that those charged with those capabilities are not violating the Fourth Amendment or any other violation. Speaking to Title I, Title III, when it comes to U.S. persons, I have already included an amendment in terms of FBI language to make sure that when a U.S. person is targeted, that the FBI specifically is responsible for culling through all exculpatory information that is reasonably known and satisfying that burden and stating it in the application. When it comes to 702, Senator, some of the biggest enterprise efforts we have had to thwart national security risk would not have occurred if 702 collection had gone dark. And the FBI continues to use that information to protect the homeland. We've had multiple takedowns in the last 6 months based on 702 and interagency collection processes, but we just need to ensure the American public, and I'm working with my team, that even in the 702 sphere, American citizens' information is protected.
Thank you all. I look forward to the discussion in the closed session.
Wow. Senator King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Director Gabbard, I didn't intend to get into the Jeffrey Goldberg story, but something you said has sort of puzzled me.
Uh-oh.
According to open source reporting at 11:44 on the morning of March 15th, Secretary Hegseth put into this group text a detailed operation plan, including targets, the weapons we were going to be using, attack sequences, and timing.
Okay,
And yet you've testified that nothing in that chain was classified. Wouldn't that be classified? What if that had been
Who knows? You
made
don't know.
public that morning before the attack took place?
Senator, I can attest to the fact that there were no classified or intelligence equities that were included in that chat group at any time.
So,
And I
so the
defer.
attack sequencing and timing and weapons and targets you don't consider to should have been classified?
I defer
or were
to the
classified?
Secretary of Defense and the National Security Council on that question.
Okay.
Well, you're the head of you're the head of the intelligence community. You're supposed to know about classifications. So your testimony very clearly today is that nothing was in that set of texts that were classified. I'll follow up on Senator Wyden's question. If that's the case, please release
release
that
it all.
whole text stream so that the public can have a view of what actually transpired on this discussion. It's hard for me to believe that targets and timing and weapons would not have been classified. Well, let me move on. You approved the.
Okay, somebody, my SF-86ers in chat could correct me here. I think there's like 3 ways for stuff to become classified. So one is through whatever process some agency decides that some material is classified that's already been released. It could already be unclassified, but they decide it's classified, number one. Number two is material that originates from a classified area is just by default considered classified. Like if you work on a classified project and there's information that's being produced in alignment with that project, it's just, it like inherits the classification of whatever you're working on. You don't have to classify every single piece of information coming out because it's by default coming from that area, it's considered to be classified. 1, 2, no, those are the 2. I was going to say you retroactively declassify things, or you can retroactively classify material, but that's the same thing as the first thing I gave. Yeah, but those are basically like 2 ways. But that second way is important because when somebody's like, oh, well, this wasn't classified or it wasn't like assigned a classification symbol or whatever, if it originates from a classified area, it's by default. My understanding is by default, it's supposed to be classified unless somebody declassifies it. So I don't know why this idea, like, well, I don't even know what argument she's going with here. Like, clearly and obviously, these conversations should have been classified, but
This annual report, prepared by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
someone in YouTube chat said this is open and shut. It's called info spillage. You have to take a training every year.
Is this submitted to the White House routinely in anticipation of its public release?
Somebody donated $5 and said the exact details behind the timings and armaments used during the initial invasion of Iraq are still classified to this day.
Is this submitted to the White House routinely in anticipation of its public release?
I don't know what you mean by submitted routinely.
Was this report submitted to the White House before its release today?
It was submitted to them once it was completed. I think probably around the same time it was sent to all of you.
I want to move on. One note that surprised me, I've been on this committee now this is my 13th year. Every single one of these reports that we have had has mentioned global climate change as a significant national security threat, except this one. Has something happened? Has global climate change been solved? Why is that not in this report? And who made the decision that it should not be in the report when it's been in every one of the 11 prior reports?
I can't speak to the decisions made previously, but this annual threat assessment has been focused very directly on the threats that we deem most critical to the United States and our national security. Obviously, we're aware of occurrences within the environment and how they may impact operations, but we're focused on the direct threats to Americans' safety, well-being, and security.
How about how they will impact mass migration, famine, dislocation, political violence, which is the finding, by the way, of the 2019 annual threat assessment under the first Trump administration? You don't consider that a significant?
These are classified. I used to work in Absent, and we built these strike packages. Every page has a red top and bottom border with the word secret. They are just lying. Yeah, like imagine how horrible this could be. Now, maybe they've got other ways of doing... they've got other ISR, what is that, intelligence, surveillance, recon, to determine the movement of assets. But imagine if somehow the journalist that got this information was also a Qatari plant or something, and he's able to communicate this information to the Houthis, and imagine they move some targets into these areas that are going to be bombed that we wouldn't want killed somehow secretly, right? They were able to move some politician or some high-profile figure or somebody that we just wouldn't want to kill, and now they get struck by the United States. This is because of his, there's a million ways you could imagine having this information public is just horrible. It's ugh.
Significant national security threat?
For the intelligence community, being aware of the environment that we're operating in is a given. What I
also is a big thing. I know that, again, people like to soy out about everything, and climate change is soy and all that. The reason why climate change traditionally has been considered, or has become considered a security threat, is because as climate changes, it leads to a whole bunch of new or novel types of behavior that could include things like huge migration patterns from areas that are warming or that are no longer inhabitable, or governments or peoples engaging in behavior because they need to secure resources or something that are no longer available because of changes or shifts in climate. It's not just a soy oh, climate change is an existential threat because it's going to make us all too hot and no more vegans or whatever. It's these have real world impacts on other countries and the decisions that they make and the people in those countries.
focused this annual threat assessment on, and the IC focused this threat assessment on, are the most extreme and critical direct threats to our national security.
Let me ask a direct question. Who decided climate change should be left out of this report after it's been in the prior 11? Where was that decision
I
made?
gave direction to
Me.
our team at ODNI to focus on the most extreme and critical national security threats
Your
that we
direction
face.
include no comments on climate change?
Senator, as I said, I focused on the most extreme and direct national
That's not a
security
response
threats
to my question.
that we face.
Did you instruct that there be no finding in terms of climate change in this report?
I don't recall giving that instruction.
Final questions in a few short seconds that I have left. You all concede, and it's in the report repeatedly, about the cyber danger from China, from Russia, from Iran. Why then is the administration deconstructing CISA? 130 people fired.
Do you know why? Ooh, who knows the answer to that? Ooh, who knows why? CISA, C-I-S-A, I don't even know what it stands for, but I believe that CISA, they might have done two things or one of two things. They were either the organization of, it was a big central, or it's like a big intelligence collection of people basically. I think they either said, we believe that the Hunter Biden laptop story is not real, or they were the ones that came out and said, we think that the election was super secure in 2020, or was the most secure election ever. They either did both of those things, or they did one of two of those things. And I think that ultra ass pained, I think Trump carries that with him to this day. Does anybody remember which one they were involved in? It might have been both. I wonder if I have this in my notes. Imagine if I can just look at my notes and it's just here. Search CISA. Oh my God. Yes. They were the ones that made the joint statement from Elections Infrastructure Government Coordinating Council and the Election Infrastructure Sector Coordinating Executive Committees. I think it was from this body where they said that this was this where the most secure election of all time, that quote came from? Yes, I believe. They quoted it, yeah. The November 3rd election was the most secure in American history. Right now, across the country, election officials are reviewing and double-checking the entire election process prior to finalizing the results. Yes, they were. Trump was ultra ass-pained about this one. And so were all except, most secure ever? How can you even know that? What? Most secure ever?
General Hawk talked about the importance of public-private cooperation. That section of CISA seems to have been disestablished. What possible policy reason is there for
Wait, forget everything I just said. CISA. People are linking something else. Is there a different CISA? S-Z-A? Is this a different thing? Oh, you're just linking some stupid fucking name. Never mind.
undermining CISA's relationship to the states with regard to elections and to the private sector with regard to cybersecurity when the cybersecurity
He's
threat
bringing it
is
up.
only
Yeah.
growing.
Kind of, yeah.
Anybody want to tackle that?
Remember, our intelligence officials were woefully inept when it came to determining the security of our elections, okay? They were fucking worthless. But when they said that Russia had nothing to do with any intrusion into any servers for the election-related stuff, then they were 100% accurate. But when they were talking about things that we don't like, you're really going to trust these fucking clowns? And by clowns, I mean some clowns can be, truthful, like when they're giving us things that we like. All Republicans, when they talk about the government, are basically this.
Drew, come forward.
Yes, chef, this is a chicken quiche with cremini mushrooms, baby spinach, and feta cheese.
Unbelievable. Well, Drew, I have a huge problem with this dish. It's that you haven't made it for me sooner.
Thank you, chef.
Because if you had, Drew, then I would know how good you are at cooking food that's bad.
I'm sorry, chef.
And when I say bad, I mean Michael Jackson bad.
Thank you, chef.
You know how he looked really, really bad at the end of his life?
Chef, I'm sorry. I don't know if you like the dish or not.
You don't know if I like the dish or not? Well, let's put it this way. Pack your knives, get out, you're off the show.
Sorry, chef.
Because you should be working in the finest restaurant in the world.
Thank you, chef.
Just not any world that I live in. In conclusion,
Key and
This is every intelligence agency, depending on if they're doing good things or bad things. I feel like Trump actually said it best accidentally. What was his quote? It was like, the news is fake, but the polls are real or something. It was just like,
I won't speak for all of my colleagues here, but I don't believe any of us have any insight into those specific staffing decisions that have been made.
Well, let me ask you this question. You've all found, the report has found explicitly growing cyber threats, including to elections from Russia, China, Iran. Do you believe that it's in the national interest to diminish our capacity to deal with those cyber issues? Yes or no?
because we stopped investigating them. I don't know why.
President Trump is focused on effects.
No answer.
And making sure that the people
And
that
making
we
sure
have
we don't
and the
answer
resources
any
that we have are
questions,
focused on our
honestly,
national security.
ever, so that we don't have to be
He and
held
his team
accountable
recognize that
for
more
anything
people
ever.
doesn't necessarily always mean better effects. Those are some of the things that are driving the changes that we're seeing across the administration, is getting all of our agencies back and focused on their core mission.
General Hawk, do you agree that
Senator King, your time is
time is
expired.
up? Thank you.
Oh my God, General Hawk. I saw you retards are having Hawk 2 in chat now. Fucking morons.
Senator Rounds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you to all of you for your service to our country. With regard to the issues surrounding Signal, I'm going to address it, but I'm going to address it in the closed session so that we can get more in depth into that issue. In the meantime, I want to direct my first question to Director Ratcliffe. As the debate continues in Washington regarding spectrum, what can you share in this unclassified setting regarding the critical nature of spectrum to national security interests generally?
Thanks for the question, Senator. I know this is an issue of great interest to the Senate, and the potential auction of commercial space on spectrum. Those, as you correctly point out, the discussions about spectrum, I will start out by saying,
Please answer so I know what opinions to have. Is Hassan a fraud for taking gaming sponsors? No, I don't think so. I don't think that matters at all, no.
there are national security implications from such an auction were to take place to both the DoD and the IC. I think the discussions that we need to have in a classified setting, I can relate to you that the direction from early meetings that we've had is that the discussion about where that might take place would not affect.
I've seen the Elon tweet. Yes, Elon tweets literally about everything to everybody. I see it. Yes.
Specifically CIA or IC equities, and I hope that's the case and where the discussion goes. But I think we need to be concerned that a public auction at bans at certain levels would have an impact on our ability to deliver an accurate intelligence picture.
In other words, there are parts of the spectrum which simply cannot be shared with the commercial.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
And we can talk about the specific reasons about why in a classified setting that would cause a diminishment of our ability to deliver a good threat picture to the commander-in-chief.
And in some cases, life or death consequences.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Thank you. Director Patel, first of all, I just want to thank you for what you are doing. And I know that there's a number of items that in your previous life you did that simply can't be discussed, but nonetheless, we've appreciated what you have done for your country already. Today, I just wanted to talk to you about, we've seen a series of public news reports about ISIS threats within the United States. And there have been several successful interdictions, Oklahoma City, Philadelphia, New York. Although the question remains as to the total number of ISIS operatives who were able to breach porous borders in the months and years before policy. Now,
is a, quote, deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of providing hoaxes time and time again. Do you share that evaluation, the Secretary of Defense's evaluation of Jeff Goldberg as a journalist?
Senator, I didn't see those comments.
Any targets that
begin to move forward with.
Thank you very much for holding this hearing, and thank you for being here. Mr. Director Ratcliffe, it sounds to me like your testimony today and the Secretary and the DNI's testimony is that there was nothing wrong at all with the signal thread that you were on, that it didn't include any targeting information or battle sequence. That is your testimony. That's your testimony. And I'm a little staggered that that is your view, Director Ratcliffe. Does the CIA have any rules about handling of classified information? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, Director Ratcliffe. Do you agree, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said this morning when asked by members of the press what had happened, he said this morning, Atlantic Editor-in-Chief Jeff Goldberg is a, quote, deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of providing hoaxes time and time again. Do you share that
time and time again?
Secretary of Defense's evaluation of Jeff Goldberg as a journalist?
Senator, I didn't see those comments. I don't know Jeff Goldberg.
So do you share that view of the Secretary of Defense?
Well, I don't have a view on.
Okay. Assuming that he has that view, I'm curious about whether you are the CIA director. Okay, this has happened. We know it's happened. Did Jeff Goldberg somehow, did he create a hoax that allowed him to become part of this signal thread? Please answer the question. You don't insult the intelligence of the American people. Did he invite himself to the signal thread?
I don't know how he was invited, but clearly he was added.
Clearly it was. Finish your sentence, please.
Clearly he was added to the signal group. Your question is.
You don't know that the president's national security advisor invited him to join the signal thread? Everybody in America knows that. Does the CIA director not know that?
I've seen conflicting reports about who added.
Really? Have you? Have you though?
The reporter to
Have you really though? Probably not.
I think that it's perfectly appropriate that
probably not.
There was a reporter added, especially one that the Secretary of Defense says is deceitful, highly discredited, a so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes over and over again. Is your testimony that it was appropriate that he was added to this signal thread?
No, of course not. And
Why did you not
well,
call?
hold on,
you
Senator.
you are the
you're mischaracterizing my testimony.
Good. You answered the question. Let me ask
What's the senator's name again?
When he was added to the thread, you're the CIA director. Why didn't you call out that he was present on the signal thread?
Senator Bennett. Okay. I want to start remembering, like, I should know all of their states and everything. And we see this guy talk a lot. Okay. U.S. Senator from Colorado since 2009. Michael Bennett. Senator Bennett. Okay.
I don't know if you use Signal messaging app.
I do. Not for classified information, not for targeting.
Ooh, he got him. Okay, so he knows a little bit. That's good. Yeah, you can use it for sure.
Neither do I, Senator. Neither do I, Senator.
Well, that's what your testimony is today.
It absolutely is not, Senator. Were you not listening at the beginning?
No.
When I said that I was using it as permitted, it is permissible to use.
I agree that's your testimony.
Yeah.
I agree that's your testimony. You asked me if I use it, and I said not for targeting, not for classified information.
And I said I don't either.
I also know Jeff Goldberg. I don't use it to communicate with him. But you thought it was appropriate. By the way, I think he's one of the more outstanding journalists in America. But I'm shocked to find him on a thread that he's reading in the parking lot of a grocery store in Washington, D.C. And your testimony as the director of the CIA is that it's totally appropriate. Is it appropriate?
No, Director, that is not.
I did not say that.
When did I use the word appropriate?
Well, go
you said
ahead,
permissible,
please.
didn't you?
Well, I didn't.
That everybody in America.
So clearly,
there's nothing to
Senator,
see here is what your testimony is.
No, I never said that.
This is just a normal day at the CIA where we chat about this kind of stuff over Signal. In fact, it's so normal that the last administration left it here for us. That's your testimony today.
That's your testimony.
No, that's
Senator.
not my testimony. That's what you said.
I didn't say any
Oh my
of those
God,
things
but-
that you just related,
I
Senator.
heard you say it. We'll let the American people decide. Let me
Well, I
ask
think
you one final point. I'm out of time.
Mischaracterized it. Well, are you going to give me a chance
Is it
to...
appropriate? Did you know that the president's Middle East advisor was in Moscow on this thread while you were as director of...
Oh, because Witkoff was in the group chat, and he's in Moscow. Oh, see, this is what I'm talking. This is what. Oh, so this is exactly what I mean when I say on your approved apps. I don't know how they do it. Also, anybody that works in intelligence, feel free to tell me if I'm wrong if I don't understand this right. My guess is there are some apps you can only log into these in a secure environment. This is one of the benefits of having a secure, compartmentalized SCIF, IF. What does the IF stand for? Informational fuck place. Is that there isn't going to be a random person on an app. Like, because they're going to be in an environment where the person on the app on the phone is, you know that it's that person, up to whatever standards or level that you're communicating in, because that's how a SCIF works, right? But this would be another reason why you would not have random apps that you're using to try to communicate information like this. Jesus. Sensitive, compartmentalized information facility. Gotcha. Depending on how this SCIF works, because I think there's different levels on different SCIFs. But like for some of these, like you literally can't even bring in devices. Like you won't be allowed to bring in a phone. Sometimes you won't be allowed to bring in any external data devices at all. So like USB drives, nothing like that. I think it depends on the level of security of the particular SCIF. But
of the CIA participating in this thread, were you aware of that? Are you aware of that today?
I'm not aware of that
This
today.
sloppiness, this incompetence, this disrespect for our intelligence agencies and the personnel who work for them is entirely unacceptable. It's an embarrassment.
With Asana, you can manage any
Get 'em.
from project intake to campaign management to strategic planning or anything else your team works on. Asana works for you. Try for free today at asana.com.
Senator,
you need to do better. You need to do better.
Got him with the do better.
Thank you. I'm being gavelled by the chairman, and I apologize for going over my time.
Senator Young.
Thank you all for being here.
Glaze time. I don't know if this is a proponent or not.
I'll be asking some follow-up questions, clarifications about this signal episode in a closed setting, and try and work with all of you to bring clarity to that situation. It appears to me there's some unanswered questions. It'll take some time, I think, to get there in a more dispassionate setting. Director Gabbard, I'm going to begin today asking you some questions about emerging technologies. It's been a real point of emphasis, I know, of our broader national security community for a period of time. We know that PRC is making generational investments.
Oh, someone on YouTube said they also have lights for when people are on the phone so that you don't talk about top secret information when others could be listening in.
In certain emerging tech, AI, biotech, and in other areas of technology to reduce their vulnerability.
What? Someone said Bizarro JD Vance.
Against any supply chain disruptions and to lead the world in some areas. As the IC assesses, the PRC is seeking to, quote, become a global S&T superpower, surpass the United States, promote self-reliance, and achieve further Gabbard of every.
Senator, what we know is that they are trying to use these capabilities especially
to build misinformation, which
I think I can answer this question more fully in the classified setting. What I would say is it relates to the issue of emerging technologies and matters of quantum computing and quantum sensing, and our perspective.
See an area that, from our perspective, and how that
to this question very briefly, that would be great.
Senator, we're obviously aware of North Korea's.
Apparently, the Atlantic guy has more stuff he's putting out. He should just release it all because they said there's nothing that's unclassified, so he should just dump all of it, right?
Revenue generating by stealing cryptocurrency has had a significant effect on North Korea's.
Oh, shit. Did we ever ask if those people that tried to rob Amaranth were North Korean?
Capabilities can
close. You get when you visit back
signal chain. And Mr. In nature, no classified information. So I want to ask each of you just a series of
wait. Let me use the restroom quick. Hold on. Wait, some guy said, high-side apps aren't the same as low-side apps. Even a different email that requires a high-side machine to use. In addition, no skiff allows electronic devices. I've even been asked to remove watches. There are certain electronic devices that are allowed in. I know this because one of the times that your mom wanted me to fuck her without your dad knowing, she wanted to bring in a vibrating cock ring, and it was a massive one with a huge lithium battery. And because it was approved for banging your mom, they let me. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. One second. of information that you. Oh,
A prosecution started with respect to Hillary Clinton regarding classified emails.
When you have the Clinton emails, when you have the fact that the sitting national security advisor right now, Jake Sullivan, was sending and laundering classified documents into an unclassified server, on top of the fact that the sitting president of the United States admitted he had documents in his garage that you're going in and out of.
Thank you. This should happen. They're going to say no, but it needs to happen. Getting a no is important rather than just not even requesting it. I saw this. Representative Dan Goldman, Democrat from New York, is preparing to send a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi requesting that a special counsel be appointed to investigate the incident involving top Trump administration national security officials accidentally adding a journalist to discussions of military operations. This should be a special counsel appointment, but I seriously doubt it. But hey, maybe they'll do it. Or maybe they'll at least find like the most hack Republican job they possibly can to do a special investigation on it. But tapping the sign. New right-wing thing is describing crimes as generically as possible to pretend like they're not crimes. Someone gets convicted of conspiracy and they start yelling, wow, so it's illegal to make plans with friends now.
Reporter Jeffrey.
Oh God, who's this guy? I hate this guy. Fuck, I forgot his name. What's this guy? Josh Hawley. Senator from Missouri. There are a few people, him, Jim Jordan. God, I hate Jim Jordan. When you see them, you know you're about to hear the dumbest, most sweep, insane fucking hack statements, the most politically partisan bullshit you've ever heard in your entire fucking life. Here we go.
Senator Hawley, I'll just read part of this piece in The Atlantic. The world found out shortly before 2 p.m. Eastern on March 15th that the U.S. was bombing Houthi targets across Yemen. And this reporter, Jeffrey Goldberg, writes that I, however, knew 2 hours before the first bombs exploded that the attack might be coming. The reason I knew this is that, again, this is the article in The Atlantic, that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, had texted me the war plan at 11:44 a.m. The plan included precise information about weapons packages, targets, and timing. Senator, your reaction to this?
Well, I thought what the Secretary of Defense just said, Laura, was an outstanding statement. And listen, I mean, we don't know how much of this is accurate or not, but it looks like even if everything the Atlantic reported is true, it's the president's advisors discussing among themselves options they might recommend to the president. And nobody can...
How long has he been a senator for?
Senator Hawley,
July 3rd, 2019. Okay. I wonder if he ever made... What did he do before? Did he ever make Hillary email statements? Let's see. We've got Jesse Waters talking about this.
Did you ever try to start a group text? You're adding people and you accidentally add the wrong person. All of a sudden, your Aunt Mary knows all your raunchy plans for the bachelor party. Well, that kind of happened today with the Trump administration. Mike Waltz was putting together a group chat on Signal, an encrypted app, with the Secretary of Defense, the VP, and a bunch of other national security officials. to collaborate on whether to strike Iranian proxies in Yemen who keep firing missiles and shutting down shipping. Well, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz accidentally added a reporter to the group text, and not a good reporter. Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic, one of the biggest hoax artists around. Well, he heard some things he probably shouldn't have, but could have been a wee bit of a security breach. But it's not like they homebrewed a server and then bleached it or kept classified documents in their garages next to their Corvette. I'm sure it won't happen again.
Jesus.
Minority Leader Schumer has called for an investigation into how this could have happened. Would you support one?
Well, listen, it doesn't surprise me that Chuck Schumer's immediate response is engage in political attacks. That's that.
How many fucking impeachment hearing things did they try to have for Biden? How many years was Hunter Biden investigated? How many different times did they try to investigate the Clintons for years and years until Ken Starr finally came up with the Monica Lewinsky stuff that was completely unrelated for anything he was originally looking for years and years related to emails and Benghazi for Hillary, for how many times have they said, like, Obama is a fucking war criminal, needs to be investigated for a drone strike? How many times have they, for the, what was it? Did we bring up Hillary's emails? Like there are so many things they've, and they're like, you guys want to investigate us for a little, wow, really? Come on, guys.
Listen, it doesn't surprise me that Chuck Schumer's immediate response is engage in political attacks. That's apparently all the Democrats are about today is political attacks, and Schumer has a real incentive to do that.
Good job, Schumer. Look at all that respect you got, Schumer, as you walk away with fucking Republicum leaking out of your fucking ass and mouth. Look at you. Good job, Schumer. You sure did a great job, man.
Because his left flank, he's got AOC threatening to primary him right now, and he's worried about his left flank. I got to say, I'm curious why Schumer and the Democrats are not concerned about the fact that for the last 4 years, the Houthis have been allowed to engage in terrorism against America, against America's allies, to drive up costs for consumers. Look, that terrorism makes shipping through the Suez Canal much, much more expensive, which means Americans, when you go to the grocery store and department store, you're paying more money because Joe Biden and the Democrats were not willing to stand up and defend America.
Wait. So cost of goods wasn't because of monetary policy or printing more money or any of the legislation, but it was because of the Houthi stuff? Or maybe it just means it was a contributing factor, but okay.
President Trump is being vigorous going after the Houthis in his direction. And actually, I read through that whole the whole Jeffrey Goldberg article. His direction, the president's direction, was open up these shipping lanes. That's good for America, and it raises a
Get ready for Universal Epic Universe, featuring the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, and Super Nintendo World. Opens May 22nd at Universal Orlando Resort. Tickets and packages on sale now at universalorlando.com.
It's beyond despicable. I would have shut it with my knee pads. Also, this should be a nonstop talking point. Once we're through with this administration, you need to ask people. Every journalist should be, first of all, no conservative should just be allowed near media ever. Anybody that was part of this bullshit should just be banned from all fucking media, okay? But the question should be, all right, we had 4 years of Trump, then we had 4 years of Biden, then we had 4 more years of Trump. You had at least 8 years. Where is the deep state? We talked about the deep state the whole time. Who was it? Give me one concrete example of the deep state. Because you had 8 years in office to investigate from top to bottom all this impropriety. Where is it? Who is it? How is it? Where? Who, what, where, when, why is it? Eight years in office. Hold on, wait, what is this? This is from our first... From the first story of the day. That girl whose story we listened to. Somebody was messaging her, man, I love you, but you need to stop. You told me you were begging him to invite you over. Please, bro. And then you block me? Literally a week prior to all these videos, you tell me and Anna Marie that you're going to do this stupid shit. Stop lying about it. It's deadass going to ruin his life. Shut the fuck up, seriously. You were laughing when I told you all about it. Of course I blocked you. You only started to care because other people did. It's none of your business what I lie about or what I don't lie about. And I can't go forward now and tell everyone I didn't mean half of it anyways. Blim Thea, these retarded fucking fans of his will be on me forever because I kind of lied about him. Like, fuck off. It's none of your business anyway. I'm blocking you. Tell Anna Marie I said fuck her too. You're seriously sick. I hope you get help. Lying about shit like this is insane. You know that, right? Damn. Free speech.
Oh, fuck. Brian Hughes, the spokesperson for the National Security Council, responded 2 hours
Come on, man. Okay.
Signal group. We are reviewing
Done with these fucking mannequins.
added to the chain, so they even confirmed it as real. With emojis and about bailing Europe out. Man.
You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive
No matter, whatever Trump says here, he's gonna laugh in response. I'm just kidding, I don't know.
Having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it, for the first time.
Do it. Laugh.
Hey,
Sean Hannity here. Hey.
I'm actually disappointed that there's not more dumb shit in here. Somebody like posting like a random meme and it's like Donald Trump like driving a race car. The thread is a demonstration of how deep and thoughtful policy coordination between senior officials are going on. Imagine if JD was posting a meme. JD posts a meme of himself. Oh god.
Dude, I was gonna... Hillary's emails was probably before his political time, I guess. So. I wonder if he talked about the Biden documents. That might have been before his time in doing mass politics as well.
Because we in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess, honey. So yes.
Don't like me anything else from her, because I like everything I've seen, and somebody's gonna like me some shit where she's talking about fucking DEI or Palestine, and I'm gonna lose all my respect, okay? Let's just keep her. We got a high opinion right now. Say the other EO. I got it. Memorandum opinion about, is this the Venezuelan thing? Yeah. Pre-dawn hours of Saturday, March 15th, 5 Venezuelan non-citizens being held in Texas by the Department of Homeland Security sought emergency relief in this court. They justifiably feared that in a matter of hours they might be removed from our country pursuant not to the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952, but instead the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. A law last invoked in the wake of Pearl Harbor as the nation was preparing for a world war. The president, plaintiffs believed, had secretly signed a proclamation invoking the act, and upon its imminent publication, the government would begin immediately removing them without any hearing to ensure that they fell within its scope. As expected, later that day, the president indeed published a proclamation announcing that because Tren de Aragua, a violent transnational criminal organization based in Venezuela, invasion or predatory incursion upon the United States, the government could begin immediately deporting any Venezuelan non-citizens it deemed to be members of Tren de Aragua. Plaintiffs are among those so deemed. all 5 of these people deported that are part of this case? Or are they still being held? Does anybody... Where am I? I need to read more. Fuck you. It sounds like these 5 haven't been deported yet, based on how this motion reads, or this memorandum of opinion reads. Because the named plaintiffs dispute that they are members of Tren de Aragua. They may not be deported until the court has been able to decide the merits of their challenge, nor may any members of the provisionally certified class be removed until they have been given the... So this applies to the rest of them as well, but okay. Yeah, I'll probably go over the Noah Samson video next. I have it open, but I haven't watched it yet. All right, so this is United States District Court for the District of Columbia. So now it gets appealed to the Circuit Court, and those are the oral arguments. That's what these are. The interesting concepts related to autistic, what it means to support genocide.
Show where he threatened
for Israelis deep in the DGG threads. My God. Do you think Mudahar suing Noah Samson is possible? I don't know. We're about to watch the video about it, so we'll see. Oh boy.
Since I released my video, The YouTubers Who Backed a Genocide, there have been some developments. Ethan Klein responded to the video with an Instagram story shortly after its release, where he wrote, "God, these bread tubers are such pathetic fucking rats. When the fuck did I ever support a genocide? I criticize your..."
Did you catch your other thread where the sub is divided on the econ guy? No, but you can link it. Why do you always have to yell at us when we link stuff in chat? Why can't you just tell us no nicely? Because you guys will link the same thing like 5 times, and I see all my links in my chat. You only delete it one time, and I've seen it. If I haven't clicked it after 2, 3, or 4, I don't know why you link it the 5th time. Like, I've already seen it.
For Idol Hassan, and you all resort to straight-up character assassination and horrific lies. A campaign which resulted in the CPS call and harassment like I've never experienced in my 15 years on YouTube. Fuck you and fuck your movement. Socialism deserves better representatives. Soon after this post, Ethan brought my video up during his live show where he threatened to sue me.
So this fucking little scumbag here who put me and Mudahar, Turkey Tom, and Destiny in a thumbnail and said the YouTubers who backed the genocide. This is fucking disgusting, and I'm not okay living in this world where these little fucking punk ass scumbags can just say this shit and get away with it. Like accusing people, usually defamation can be all different types of things. Someone supporting genocide, we throw this term around a lot. That's one of the most, I mean, can you say something more fucked up about somebody than that? Sounds pretty defamatory. And again, I'm not taking any prisoners. If my attorney thinks there's anything in here, if he thinks that there's like a decent shot of defamation, I'm suing this fucking piece of shit, this little scumbag.
So for defamatory comments, things that are defamatory, the first thing is it has to be, to even qualify, it has to be something, I believe it's called actionable, I think is the term they use for it. But you can't simply be offering an opinion of something that somebody is doing. It has to be an actual like statement that can reduce to true or false in such a way that it's clear that like a lie has been said about somebody. So what it means to support genocide, it could probably mean a whole bunch of different things. I don't think that a comment like that would ever be considered defamatory, just as a heads up.
So he is threatening to sue me for defamation on the grounds that accusing someone of supporting genocide is messed up. I can think of something even more
Well, no. He didn't. Oh, God, nobody. That's not why he said it. He said it because you were lying about his position. That's why he said it. Not because it's messed up, but because he said you were lying about his position. But, okay.
messed up than accusing someone of supporting genocide, which is, actually supporting genocide. I can't imagine that it's pleasant to be confronted with the idea that you might be supporting a genocide, so the instinct here to deflect and deny without even offering any sort of actual defense against the points is an entirely predictable response. This is how the liberal media class will operate in the coming decades when it's time to answer for their crimes of manufacturing consent for a genocide. They will simply say,
Can I just say, I just want to reiterate one more time that I had this horrendous, this disgusting fantasy so long ago that the internet would just be, in the streamer space, a whole bunch of people autistically arguing over whatever factual disagreements they had and citing papers and videos and reports, whatever, back and forth. And it wasn't just going to be people screaming, basically like, oh, you support genocide. Oh, well, you support genocide. Oh, you support... Like, it's just like the most annoying, like, it's just so annoying. There's just never any real discussion, which is disappointing, especially because Israel-Palestine is like a very rich area for a whole multitude of discussion. And a lot of like really interesting stuff is present there as well, like interesting concepts related to international law, a lot of interesting stuff related to history and historical justifications for violence, interesting stuff related to like what makes a nation, what makes a people. There's just like a rich tapestry of arguments that could be woven or given in relation to this, but instead it's just all like screaming genocide back and forth, which is an intentional strategy, at least by the Palestinians, I guess. But I don't know, it's a little disappointing to see people playing to that so much, but whatever.
Say, no, I didn't. If they say anything at all, most of them won't. It's happened throughout history. It happened with the Vietnam War. It happened with the invasion of Iraq. And it'll happen. It's genocide. They will simply say, when it's time to answer for their crimes of manufacturing consent for a genocide, they will simply say, no, I didn't. If they say anything at all, most of them won't. It's happened throughout history. It happened with the Vietnam War. It happened with the invasion of Iraq. And it'll happen again with Gaza. What makes Gaza...
Well, I think Vietnam is seen universally as a bad thing the U.S. did, no? Are there people right now, even in media, that defend the Vietnam War? Is it... Okay.
Gaza, a bit different, though, is that unlike prior U.S.-backed atrocities abroad, we all know what's been happening there the entire time. Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza has been called the first ever live-streamed genocide because we've seen the entire thing as it's happened with high-definition cell phone video. The mass destruction, the ruthless attacks on the healthcare system, the deliberate targeting of men, women, children...
He's saying the media warmongers didn't admit to their part of Vietnam or Iraq. I mean, maybe at the time, but maybe at the time they agreed with it, right? I mean, like, history also views situations differently. Like, people's perspectives on things can change over time as well, right? Like, keep in mind, we are completely divorced from the context of living in, like, a Cold War era. Like, we don't even know what that means or what that feels like. Not to say that Vietnam was right or whatever, but, I mean, I guess if that's your criticism, then okay.
Medics, aid workers, the intentional starvation used by Israel as a weapon of war, and then the massacres that followed that starvation when Palestinians crowded around aid trucks trying to get what little food Israel was allowing.
And, like, it sucks on this Palestinian thing because it's always, like, these little tidbits, like, all of these things, like, the Flower Massacre was a nickname that was given to this event, and it was like, there's no proof whatsoever of the characterization that he's given here, that basically they threw flour out in order to lure Palestinians here so that they could, like, mass kill them. Like, there's no evidence that this happened like this, but of course it's just the story they all run with, and it's like, okay, well...
Starvation when Palestinians crowded around aid trucks trying to get what little food Israel was allowing into the Strip. The 20,000 slain children, many of them slaughtered with their entire families. The IDF terrorists recording and posting their war crimes, acts of humiliation, degradation, their torture.
Why do we care about this guy's opinions to watch this? One, because his views have been getting quite a bit of coverage on it. Two, is because it allows me to speak about my perspective and knowledge of these events. And three, because he's calling a lot of other content creators out, not just me, but also like Mudahar and Ethan, who have also responded to it, so it's topical, it's relevant. And at least he somewhat brings up points more than Hassan does, because Hassan will just call people names. At least this guy, even if it's all stupid propaganda, at least now he's bringing up something. But
torture and rape of Palestinians, the full support of Israel throughout all of these atrocities, the vile, dehumanizing racism that is required to uphold a project like this.
I just think we need to kill them, every one of them, and that's it. And if not that, because...
Also, I don't know if I would go this far to say it, but they would say it on the other side. I think that there are strong arguments that if you think that no reasonable mind can disagree that what's happening in Gaza right now is a genocide, I think there are strong arguments to say that that's anti-Semitism. The reason why is because you're essentially saying that there is a country full of people, and he's citing these conversations with ordinary Israeli civilians, not with IDF soldiers, just ordinary Israeli civilians, saying somehow every single Jewish person living in Israel can't see the very obvious truth that this is a horrific genocide. None of them are able to see it. I think there are strong arguments that that's, if you were to make any sort of similar claim about the peoples of an Arab state, or even about the Palestinians, like, oh, they use human shields, why? Because Arabs hate their children, like, they would call you Islamophobic even, or anti-Arab or whatever, but I don't know, but I don't even go there, I guess. But you could make strong, if I was having like an intellectual debate and we were all being honest, I would make that argument, that I would say that this rises to the level of essentially anti-Semitism. You're saying there's a whole society full of people whose nation is built on the idea of genocide, and they're either all collectively too stupid to realize it, or they all just support it because they're just genocidal in ethnic makeup, basically. But
Because the country will not let that happen, the government. Just, the least we can do is just kick them out of our land. Because this is our home, this is our land, and we deserve it.
What do you think about Palestinians?
That I hate them, and I wish they all died. We didn't stop, and we killed everyone.
You're gonna kill everyone?
Yes!
like, I don't know how much of this video is gonna be wasted on this, but like, if he wants, like, we can go and replay the Farfur fucking cartoons, and we can play unhinged shit that Palestinians say about Israelis. You can do this back and forth all day. People like Noah just contribute to the media environment that shows that the issue is intractable because they want to completely and totally blame one side and basically dehumanize them. I hate the expression, but say that like these people are just bloodthirsty savages who are only interested in the death and destruction of the other side for no appreciable reason. There's no reason. They're just genocidal freaks, like, by nature. Like, it's just cringe, but whatever.
Yes!
You guys are animals. You guys are fucking animal terrorists.
You killed 10,000 kids.
10,000 terrorists that would grow up to be the next. 10,000 kids that would grow up to be the next terrorists. That's what it is.
Really?
Because it's Palestine.
But I'm Palestinian. Does that mean I'm a terrorist?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm a terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want Palestinians in Gaza?
Like, what? This girl back here looks like she's fucking 9 years old. How old are these people? Why are we... Or he's... Well, no, fuck! He's using it to illustrate that, like, Israeli people, Jewish Israeli people, because he wouldn't say the same thing about the Arab Palestinians that live in Israel. He's just saying that Jewish people are, to their core, a genocidal freak people. That's the argument. Like, it's pretty crazy, but whatever. And then also, again, the infinite curiosity given to the Palestinian side. What would drive a people? What would drive a people to actually be that hateful of Israel? Like, let's look at the history. And then you look at the Israelis. What would drive a people? No. They're just genocidal freaks. And it's like, okay.
Yes.
All of them?
Yes.
Oh my god.
We've seen all of this, which is why the whole "no, I didn't" defense doesn't hold up, because, you know, yes, you did. We have you on video during this genocide that everyone saw, spreading propaganda that's been used to justify that genocide.
It's so vile to deny the suffering.
Oh, so he didn't read this full report. We already went over this on stream. I think the first time, I guess he didn't watch my stream, or he doesn't give a fuck. But the UN had the Special Rapporteur of Sexual Violence Against Women and Girls, whatever, I don't fucking know the whole abbreviation. They had 2 weeks to conduct this investigation, and they felt with a high level of probability that different rapes had been committed across the entirety of the October 7th attack theater, but they didn't have enough time to see if those orders came from the top down, essentially. But in specific areas of the report, because they investigated different kibbutzes, and they investigated different areas where attacks had happened, including obviously the Nova Festival site, they said that they couldn't find conclusive evidence here, so they just cite parts of those just to pretend that there is no evidence that the other people were citing. The UN was saying that there were credible evidences of multiple rapes having occurred, but okay.
Trauma of the victims, just because you need your heroes at Hamas to be perfect.
My friends, defeating our brutal enemies requires both courage and clarity. Clarity begins by knowing the difference between good and evil. And these monsters, they rape women, they burn babies alive. Many anti-Israel protesters, many choose to stand with evil. They stand with Hamas. They stand with rapists and murderers.
The Gazan Health Ministry, which, by the way, Gaza Health Ministry is run by Hamas, terrorist organization. I think a lot of people are all too happy to not look too deep into these things, but again, Gaza Health Ministry is...
So again, this is just no one not being aware of the record, I guess. Its numbers have historically been considered reliable by the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and Human Rights Watch. So when they say that the Gaza Health Ministry numbers are reliable, what they're saying is they look at the Israeli numbers, then they look at the Gaza numbers, and they make sure that the Gaza numbers are what the Gaza numbers say they are, and then they say, well, they're reliable. They don't actually do any independent fact-checking. We've read those underlying reports. They don't, right? That's how they verify the numbers. They ask them the numbers, they tell them the numbers, they say, okay, well, fine, that's right, and they just take it at word. If you don't believe me, or if you think that I'm wrong, then go find how they verify the numbers. We've read it. That's what they do. Also, there's a big oopsie that happened in this war, is that it's almost certain that there are two bodies. It's the Gazan Health Ministry, and then there's one other one that's the media arm. It's not the Gaza Health Ministry. It's another one. What am I thinking of? Somebody give me the name of the second one. Fuck you guys. Gaza Health. I forget the names. One is like the media arm, and the other is like the hospital.
More pieces of trash.
Like one is like more. Is it the Gaza Media Office versus the Gaza Health Ministry? I don't remember which one it was. I think it was the Health Ministry was lying about the distribution.
Come on, though.
Happening in Gaza. For instance, what they were doing is every single day there were deaths reported. It seemed like they were accurately reporting the amount of dead men, and then they would just fill up the rest with like women and children, like even in arbitrary portions. Like there was a way to look at this via data analysis, but when you looked at it, it was very obvious what was happening, that there was a minimum amount of people dead per day, and that in order to hit that dead per day amount, they would just add however many women or children they needed to make up the number. And what they ended up doing is they rescinded the breakdown of men, women, and children by the end, but they kept the absolute number the same. So it's just like, what the fuck is going on here? Why are we relying on these numbers if we already admitted to lying about the amount of dead women and children? Why would we even accept that? There was an interesting article.
What the fuck?
Because this is a right-leaning. It is a right-leaning Israeli source. I think it's called Tablet. Is it Tablet? Bro, it's been so long. But there's a guy that does an analysis of the numbers, and they did end up rescinding, the GMO, I believe, did end up rescinding their breakdown, and they just don't talk about the breakdown anymore. They just report the quote-unquote raw numbers, whatever the fuck that means. It might have been this, where every single day they basically reported like the same amount of people dead, which is strange because obviously some days have more attacks and some days don't have attacks or whatever. And what they found was that there is likely some amount of like reported dead in terms of like some number, and they would do like men. They would say that they're men that are dead for these, and then for the number that they wanted to invent, they would just all of these, 100% of these would be women and children. Because when they went to revise these numbers based on the confirmed casualty account, the numbers for women and children fell dramatically, like massively. So like the idea that we would rely on these, but rely on these numbers as being completely credible is a little silly. But I mean, there's definitely civilians have definitely been killed in the war, though.
Dump the trash in the recycle bin behind the train.
Very high in Gaza, which is not good. It sucks, but
is Hamas. There was more Jews displaced than Palestinians during the Nakba.
We have you on video attacking and delegitimizing the only groups in the world militarily resisting that genocide.
Wait, Tablet is American Jewish, not Israeli? Oh, I thought that it was an Israeli publication. It's American, okay.
And delegitimizing the only groups in the world militarily resisting that genocide with arguments plus...
This is just terrorist propaganda. So to be clear, Yemen, the Houthis, are not militarily resisting the genocide. That's just not, they're not doing anything to help anybody in Palestine or in Gaza. That's just bullshit. They were just committing terrorist attacks in the ocean against ships. That's it. Stated reason was apparently maybe because of the Gaza Strip, but it's more likely they're just getting orders from Hassan, not from Hassan, although maybe from Hassan, from Iran. But it's like, this is a ridiculous argument.
than Palestinians during the Nakba.
We have you on video attacking and delegitimizing the only groups in the world militarily resisting that genocide, with arguments plucked directly from the US State Department, the #1 material supporter of the genocide.
Terrorist group.
Like, just because an area, especially when it comes to Israel, holy shit! Just because a source is cited from a particular link doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong. When it comes to Israel, you probably have to read the underlying material. Sometimes there is correct information, but they reach bad conclusions. Sometimes it's correct information and correct conclusions, but with a bad application of international law. The UN is especially guilty of this. Or sometimes it's just bad information that was gathered in a stupid way, and they're not like forthcoming in the conclusion about that. But if you read the whole report, you'll see what's going on. It just depends. But especially for this conflict, unfortunately, I think you have to read a lot of the underlying material because it's hard to just read something and take it at face value.
We have you on video attacking and delegitimizing the most prominent media figures in the YouTube space who have been advocating against the genocide and breaking down the propaganda used to justify it.
Hassan loves all terrorists.
We have you on video running defense for the primary architects of the genocide.
Just the other day, Bibi fired a really good guy that a lot of people are pissed about. And he
Oh my God. People are mad about this good guy comment because Yoav Gallant was the Minister of Defense for the majority of this war. And so arguably you can say, well, he's not a good guy because the war is bad or whatever. But the reason why they're saying this is because I believe it was reported. I don't know if it ended up being true, but I believe it was reported that the reason why he was fired is because Gallant was like, was like telling them to heed, like they needed to be more cautious. More cautious? Not, I was going to say cautious. They need to be more cautious when, I think it was like going back into, or it might have actually been him saying they shouldn't be using, letting aid in or whatever as a way to fight against Hamas that's left in the Gaza Strip. And then I think he got fired for that. That's what was reported at the time when she was saying this. So she wasn't just saying like, oh, Yoav Gallant is like such a great, awesome person and he's so good and blah, blah, blah. Like that was the reason why she was saying this. But again, it's all just like sucked out of context. Like it's fucking retarded. Destiny's very informed. He's just super bad faith on this topic. True, Zach. I am. Yes, I'm so bad faith.
fired him because they had a disagreement, and that's like so Trump coded.
Well, he was like a moderating voice in the war room.
Yeah.
Like, you're taking quotes from this guy, a complete siege on Gaza. I think these quotes that are coming here might have been like on October like 10th. Like, I think that this might have literally been days after October 7th, I think, because I think some of these quotes, I think, got used by South Africa and their ICJ application. So it's like, but okay, good one, dude. Because this was over, like, this was years ago. Clearly that didn't happen. You didn't see a ton of people dying due to starvation or lack of electricity or whatever, right? So something clearly is not connecting here if this ended up not being the case, right? But...
We have you on video attempting to portray the perpetrator of that genocide as some kind of beautiful, free, diverse, democratic state.
We're planning to go to Israel in June with my parents and all the kids. It's going to be such a great trip. And I'm actually really excited to go there. I want to show you guys.
You haven't been there in so long.
It's been a long fucking time. What I want to do is show you guys how I see Israel, because you don't see that. When you listen to Hassan and you hear all these fucking mega lefties talking about it like it's some super racist, like crazy
what the fuck?
Like Jim Crow style of society. Like, I can't wait to show you guys how beautiful, how multicultural, how like free it feels for people, or just it's a beautiful place. It is. It's one of the most diverse places I've ever been.
These people all seem to believe that in order for someone to back a genocide, they need to like look into the camera and say, I support genocide. I think it's good. More of that, please. And while we do have examples of certain parties to the conflict here doing just that, like Destiny and Asmongold,
I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's big.
Oh, please quote my please quote the random comment I made like months before October 7th happened. Please let that be the video play. Please.
Into their laws.
With West, by the way, there.
Genocided.
Also, please just include the part where I say, fuck it, I'm pro-genocide, I guess. And then not the part afterward where I say, it seems like the conflict is incredibly intractable and it's not going to end until once I completely annihilates the other side. Please, 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 please. I'm edging myself right now to this.
Don't give a fuck. They're terrible people.
I'm pro-genocide.
Yes!
Like, it sounds really shitty, but like, I think that Israel should just drop its fucking board. Okay, wait. You've got like 4 more words and then cut the clip. 4 more words and then cut the clip, please. Orders about where it is now, and basically Palestinians can go live in another place.
And then
yes! Oh, I cummed all over. Yes! Based.
An effective way to back a genocide doesn't look like that. Mainstream Western outlets don't say those Palestinian kids deserve to be killed. No, they say that some kids died when bombs dropped, that Israel says it was dropping on Hamas, which is a US designated terrorist organization. The mainstream Western media doesn't say that there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. They simply quote the death tolls as being reported by the Hamas, aka terrorist-run health ministry, and then report uncritically the IDF saying that most of them are soldiers, actually, and soldiers are terrorists, by the way. So who's to
Destiny, the months before October 7th is the worst defense. The actual defense that it was not a serious statement. If it was serious, it would be bad at any point in time. No. The reason I clarify that it was months before October 7th is, one, I mean, like, it was a half-serious statement, like, but the full statement is that it seems like it's going to keep going until one side kills the other, so I guess somebody's going to genocide somebody, which was the full statement. But the reason why it's important to clarify it's before October 7th is because people cite that quote as though October 7th happened, and then my response was, they should go genocide the Palestinians in response to October 7th. That's how that quote is presented as, and that's how most people take it as.
Say what's actually true.
I'm done.
Western media doesn't say that Yemeni children deserve to die because
Yemeni. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Catch you next time.